Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League special Travis Gafford's birthday edition. That's the top story. I'm hyping it up because I don't think I've ever done Hotline League on my birthday. Normally, Riot puts MSI on top of this, and so normally there's like MSI finals on this day or stuff like that. Famously, I woke up very early and watched Team Liquid get fucking crushed in MSI finals back in, what was that, 2018 or something?
2019 summer, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, after the IG win into the slappening.
Yes, that was the first experience of my 30s that I had, was just watching Team Liquid get utterly destroyed, and I was like, it's gonna be a decade, isn't it? So anyway, but yes, it's gonna be a fun episode. There's actually so much. The birthday thing is mostly a joke. I mean, it is my birthday, but that's not the most interesting thing. We've had so many interesting things happen. Which I think is the industry's gift to me for finally having like 5 different things to talk about on a show. I've been blabbing too long. Cubby is here, my co-host. Cubby, how's it going?
Great, Travis. I was on a plane today, so I had to rush back for your birthday in Hotline League. I was bummed I missed the celebrations over the weekend. Hope you had a good time, and it's been fun being part of those for the past couple of years. You always get a really nice group of people together.
Fun fact, I invited 3 people, actually I think 4 people that I pay, all 4 people who get compensated for Travis Gafford Industries. Numi, Cubby, Drew, and Jordan. Jordan has the excuse that she lives in Florida, but the other 3 did not. None of them showed up, and so I don't know if that says something about the way in which I treat, the people that work for me or what, but it was very disappointing.
Gotta be a better boss, I guess. Well,
I was at a wonderful wedding. I had a good excuse, Travis. So
Numi says I was doing Mother's Day things. I think that's maybe the worst excuse I've heard. Maybe Drew's is the worst, but I feel like Mother's Day being a week ago, it's a little late.
That's a cop out of all cop outs. You can say it.
So true, so true. All right.
Wait, Raz is in chat saying that he did go. I didn't see Raz there.
So Raz showed up at the end for 5 minutes.
Oh, classic. Good.
I think it was I believe my expectation is, because he told, I guess Flowers told him where it was. My expectation is that he ran into Flowers, and Flowers is like, just show up for 5 minutes, it'll be fine. And then he wandered over. Sorry, he says 15 minutes. My bad. No, I'm just kidding. I enjoyed having you there, Raz. Kangas was there for you were probably there for 45. I feel like you were there for
about 45.
Yeah.
I showed up, and I didn't know. It was one of those parties where I was like, I don't know how many people I'm going to know there. Because if people aren't like in League of Legends esports, I don't know them as much in the gaming industry. I know you're a little more well-connected, but I made some friends, met some new people. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with some of the other casters for a bit. And got to say, best experience of my life. I mean, anybody who missed out on that birthday party really missed out on something special. Like, we all bonded. We're going to tell stories about this for generations to come in the esports industry. And it really, I think, is like the rebirth of esports in a way. So I think all the important people were there, at least. I'm happy about that.
Well, let me formally welcome you as a guest to the show again. Thank you so much for being here on my birthday, in the way some other people were not there for me on my birthday party. Actually, Kangas, I think you were there when we were all talking about Expedition 33.
Yes, it is still in my wish list, or in my cart on Steam. Should I just finish the purchase right now while we're on the bar?
Yeah, I think it's so good.
I heard a bad thing about that game.
FTC disclosure, I received a CD key for it, but they didn't sponsor me. I just the management group that I have is able to get keys for content creators. It is so good. It is how I spent a lot of my weekend. Like, actually, I went and finished a huge chunk of it, the second part of it. I don't want to give spoilers, because even just talking about the structure of the game is like a spoiler. But I did that right after that party. I went and just sat down on my couch for 5 hours and played it. And it was just, at the end of it, I was like, oh my god, this is one of the best games. Probably the best game I've played since Baldur's Gate, if we're talking about narrative games, Balatros stuff.
Right.
But
I just finished the purchase.
He's a gamer at heart, guys.
Fantastic, yeah. Please, sponsor me, small indie company that made that game, because it was made by it's a little exaggerated, but their core team was 33 people, and then they had a bunch of contractors and stuff, and this game is somehow better than so many other things. So yeah. We should just make today's episode about Expedition 33. Lune, best girl. All right. Thank you to PrizePicks and NZXT for sponsoring the show. I do want to shout out, by the way, I was on the NZXT podcast this past week, so you can go check that out. We talked for like an hour and a half. They asked me a ton of questions about my career and my general thoughts on a lot of different things and some of my favorite memories. So it was really fun. Go check it out. I linked it over on the community page of my YouTube channel, but you can also do that. All right, Cubby, please go down the giant list of things that happened in the past 24 hours. I guess 36 hours if we're including the LTA weekend.
Yeah, well, LTA weekend. FlyQuest smacked the hell out of C9.
Yeah.
Then we had UG making his debut early.
Yeah.
We had and they smacked around SR. We had Dignitas finding an upset win over Lion, and then DSG's out. That pretty much sums up the past weekend of LTA. Other news-wise, we woke up this morning to some news with TL and Honda. There was a player for Rainbow Six Siege that made a tweet that was rather unsensitive, and it ended up leading to the name sponsor being canceled early.
So yeah, I can give some more context on a little bit of stuff that I've heard about it. But my understanding, because I think that the wording is strange. From talking to people, it sounds like they were in conversations with renewal. So like the contract was winding down and was going to be renewed because that's how these things work. And I guess it sounds like they were pretty far in those conversations in a pretty good place. So like my initial reaction, which I think a lot of people I saw in the Reddit thread were saying, is like, oh, this seems like a lot for one thing. Whether or not that is like fair or not, I don't want to be insensitive about the gravity of this, but like we've had players who have done really dumb fucking things like this in the past, and it has not left a team without like a title sponsor. And so it was like, okay, this seems like more than what we've seen historically in terms of the response. Is there a world where this was just Honda trying to get out of this early? And again, from what I understand, like they didn't. This was not like an excuse to terminate a contract that was mid contract. It sounds like they were actively trying to figure out what the next contract would look like, and then unfortunately this ended up happening. So but it sounded like from what I've heard, it was not a thing where they were dissatisfied with Team Liquid before this, or that this was an excuse to like get out or anything like that. So I only bring that up because I've seen some people misconstrue this as, oh, this like LTA viewership bad, so like that's what this story is really about. And I've
seen a lot of doomerism.
From what I've heard, that is not the case. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But anyway,
that's good.
Continue on with the list, Cubby.
I mean, what else is there?
Well, there's
Hall of Legends.
Hall of Legends, yeah. UZI got announced. There's some drama about Pobelter and Near Airport, which you've seen. I mean, Cubby, you've seen that, right?
I mean, if you want to take a Near Airport call, it's fine.
Sure.
I will say it's wild from my perspective, because obviously my job is to cover those games live, and I'm not watching the streams. So it's like the first time that there are like fans or players that just straight up know more about a team than we do, right? Because I have to go back and like dig up all the clips. But yeah, they got upset by Winthrop in NACL this past week, and because everything is public and because those players are popular, some of those clips ended up making waves on Reddit. So anyway,
yeah.
How do you think EDC was? I had some friends that went. Yeah, looked cool.
Well, I mean, we should clarify. Yeah, so the drama supposedly is that Double Lift and TF Blade were not at VOD review, and Double Lift in particular was at EDC this past week instead. So
they only had like one day to scrim. They had like this whole blow up of different opinions. Of course, when you have players that have been playing for that long, there's gonna be different opinions of like what happened, what went wrong in games. But they didn't really have time to scrim or like put any of their review into practice, because they only had like one day to scrim this week leading into their next games, because everyone had different stuff going on. The funny thing was the reason Double Lift couldn't was because he was going to EDC. So
yeah, mid-wave didn't matter. That's my only comment. Double Lift is right. It's fine.
Yeah. So I feel like there's just actually a lot of, dare I say, drama. Like I think the C9 stuff is like crazy. That match was crazy. You can't blame Best of Ones for what happened there. I'm sure we'll have like, I don't know. I feel like the UZI stuff was like the obvious pick for for Hollow Legends 2. I guess full disclosure, I voted in that, and I voted for UZI. I'm one of the panelists or whatever. So that's not too much drama there. But Cubby, you it makes it sound like you feel like he's not deserving.
It might be our first call. I think that given what the award is for Riot, like he was the pick. I mean, we all sat here last year when Faker was announced and said that UZI was going to be next, but I still have beef with how they're handling the Hall of Legends. So I think that's the interesting discussion.
I think they should all be active players personally. So that's my thought.
Yeah. Anyway. But I think the Devil S stuff, I think the TL stuff, I don't think we need to take more than one call about the TL thing, but I do think like there's so many times lately where we've been rolling into these episodes that it's like, and I'm happy when we get to talk about the games, but it's like, okay, it's been 3 weeks and we've just seen 6 games or 6 matches played and or 6 days of matches. And that's been what's been going on in the last 3 weeks. And so, also, UG, right, Cubby? Did we even mention that?
Yeah, I mentioned that one, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate, TGF, how you're trying to roll back the clock here and make sure that we got a real hopping episode of Hotline League, which it should be. So it should be fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, but there's so much to talk about. I guess we should get into it.
There's a lot.
You want me to take a call?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like we just hop into it. I don't know,
real quick.
Do it.
Discord.gg/Travis. If you guys want to call in at me, at Cubby, you have to be sitting in the Discord. I'll drag you into the waiting room. We already have takes for UZI, one maybe for the TL scenario. And besides that, like I'm still kind of waiting for people to fill it up. So if you want to join for the birthday episode, hop in there. And I'm going to go grab our first caller.
Yeah. Thank you to a bunch of people who sent birthday subs and everything. Thank you to Jorbin, Simon. Hey, Simon. I hope you're doing well. 52 months. Trespasser, Syrup on a Pancake, The Fried Piper, Mad Fishy. We've got Wickhelm, Tamaine gifted a sub. Also, I just noticed over on YouTube, Mike is Go just became a member. So thank you to the folks who are over supporting on YouTube as well. And then I see a bunch of people in the chat saying happy birthday. Thank you. It's fun to be able to do one of these on my birthday. We've been doing this for many years, and this is the first time where this is lined up. So nice to see everybody here. It looks as though our first caller is here. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Someone here to try and call you out on your lies about my contributions to your birthday.
Sorry, caller, I didn't catch your name. What's your name? I believe. And where are you calling from?
My name is Barento Raz Muhammad, and I'm calling from sunny Los Angeles, California.
Yes. Well, I believe the sun is setting right now, so I don't know if it's still sunny. I think if you're trying to establish credibility already, yours is the lies have started. So
no, it's the golden hour, which is the sunniest hour. It's beaming right at my face.
I don't think golden hour is the sunniest hour. I think noon is the sunniest hour.
The angle is hitting me perfectly.
What do you want to talk about on this goddamn show, Raz?
All right. Well, first of all, except for the lies that you're telling about your birthday party, I'm calling to talk about the Hall of Legends and why UZI is the perfect candidate.
Ooh, I get to watch Cubby and Raz fight on my birthday. Perfect. All right. Why is Raz considering UZI to be the best candidate for Hall of Legends this year?
You know, it's funny because you remember what my take was on the Hall of Legends as a whole last year, right?
I feel like you were in the it's a marketing thing, and maybe Faker shouldn't be allowed in because he's still playing, right? Weren't you in that camp?
I was in that camp. In general, I do not see it as a Hall of Fame. It's not Hall of Fame. Like Faker's already been inducted the first year. He is playing in the first year. That's fine. I see it mostly as which player had made the most impact on the game. And so that's always going to be the problem with this award is you're going to see people perceive it different ways because the introduction was a little weird. And so it's very easy to talk about UZI and the significance that he's had. If you think about AD carries globally throughout the history of the league, he is the first person you think of. He was somebody that, just going through his history, 2013 Worlds, 2014 Worlds, carried that husk of a team to finals. He had one of the worst junglers I've ever seen in Lucky. He had one of the worst solo laners I've seen in Cola and Korn in 2014. Yes, he did not win those finals. The expectation was not that because he was going up against pretty insane teams.
Yeah.
But to be able to be the pride of China at that time was crazy. And of course, the 2018 road, like people talk about the Golden Road, it was pretty insane. Like, yes, a gold medal at Asian Games, beating Korea. Like, yes, Rift Rivals, which Western people, I mean, I understand people don't care about Rift Rivals with what is it, LEC or Europe versus
we care
North
a lot
America.
about 2017 Rift Rivals specifically. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
True. North American supremacy. But with Korea and China, it was such an insane competition. Like, it was amazing to watch. There was, I mean, it is what it is. And so, like, with Rift Rivals in 2018, he won. Like, it was an incredible journey. If I honestly tell people to like rewatch it, it was such a fun event. You could see like the band of coaches for both teams, all the players like sharing information. Like, it was really fun. And then you go into like MSI, obviously a championship, 2 LPL championships in that year. Like, obviously Worlds is what only people like think of, but I can even just like, if we're just talking about one player and really discrediting him for winning Worlds, go through any sport and talk about the Hall of Fame or some of the best players in general. And like, do we discount Charles Barkley for his contributions just because he didn't win Worlds or he didn't win his championship? No, we still pursue. Allen Iverson is probably the greatest example there too. Like, you can have an individually exceptional player held down by a dog shit team, and we're completely fine with that. And then of course, like for me, what matters the most is like longevity. How long they were able to be at the top. Because sadly, a lot of viewers right now are like, they have their, they just, I don't even know what to call it. They cannot see farther.
As long as us, Raz.
Yeah,
that's one thing for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Like, even when we were talking about some of the best series in the world, like the LoL Esports put out that thing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
People are so recency biased, they do not remember anything past like 2017, 2018. He's been around and he's been the best like from 2012 till like 2019. That is fucking insane. And he retired. So that is probably the best example of somebody that should be in that case. So there it is.
So yeah, I'm curious to hear Cubby's thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Isn't super big fan of it because again, I'm happy that it's UZI train as well. I think it's interesting that like there's the 2 skins because Vayne is by far the more popular champion I think of when I think of UZI, but maybe Kaisa is just like the more popular that they think they can make money off of. So that's my assumption.
It should be Vayne.
Yeah,
I understand why it's Kaisa. Like, he did win MSI off that versus Kingzone. Like. And it's the more popular champion, perhaps. I don't know how they make that decision.
I mean, it is like the premier LPL AD carry ever since that champ came out. Like, and I mean, look, any beef that I have with this, it's not with UZI. It's just what the spirit of the award is, right? Like, I really wish that there was something that would honor players like in a Hall of Fame. And if we are honoring players in a Hall of Fame, you cannot have a Hall of Fame for League of Legends without UZI being in there. It's just, is he the second player that I'm putting in there? No, he may not be the second AD that I put in there, right? Because for me, I think that Deft, just given longevity and winning in both leagues, like has a very impressive resume. And Prey also was someone that outside of international events, given like domestic achievements, also you could argue had a more successful career than UZI, right? So for me, it's just again like a spirit of the award. I mean, we talked about this when Faker came out last year and this whole thing started. We all sat here and was like, hey, UZI's next. Like, we have to play these semantics where it's like, all right, we have to take a Chinese player because we had a Korean player first, and can it even be a mid laner, right? And then, of course, they open up the can of worms where it's like active players. I think that in terms of cultural impact on the game, like I do think that UZI has a very much an argument for number 2. It's just that, like, it was very clear with this being created, the fact that it is a Kaisa skin and not a Vayne skin. But again, this is being made to sell skins and less so made to honor the players and the great players that came before. And, like, that pretty much is just my entire beef with it, right? I think that UZI's resume, internationally, if you watched internationals, you think way higher of Faker and UZI than you do if you watch every single domestic split of, like, all those guys, right? And I think it's fine that those are honored more. And the fact that UZI, I mean, I think that what he did in season 4 specifically, I don't know how he got that team to finals. It really was just Insect playing like a madman, and then UZI just actually being better at the triangle of ADs that were being played at the time, which it was like Twitch, Tristana, Lucian, and he wasn't ever allowed to have Lucian because he was just way too good at that champion back then. I think that season 4 for me was the craziest. Obviously, the run that he had with, I mean, he is on one of the greatest teams of all time in that 2018 RNG roster. You can't really deny that, too. I think that what he did there in winning, I like what Raz pointed out in terms of Rift Rivals and Asian Games. I think that those are 2 tournaments that he won that a lot of people don't appreciate. But the fact that I think he only won 1 LPL split, it's kind of crazy that like someone that is getting this award, like this is the second person being inducted in this. And again, it just solidifies for me, like, it's a bummer that this is a skin money grab, and I'm fine with that. I just really wish that there was an actual Hall of Fame for the game.
Well, he won 2, didn't he, on 2018? Both spring and summer?
Yeah, he won.
Raz would know because he was there.
I have it up. He won spring and summer. It was 1 split besides that, I want to say. I guess it was the 2013 split was weird because they like FF'd the playoffs when they won the regional to go to Worlds.
Yeah, the regionals was a big thing.
But like that did matter more, so I guess you give him 3 splits overall.
Yeah,
if we're gonna count that.
Yeah, that can work.
Yeah. So to kind of go back to Cubby's point, though, if I'm hearing you correctly, it just sounds like you think that there's other names that you'd put in front of UZI. It's not that you don't like UZI on the list. You don't think he's deserving of it. There's just other people that should go first. I think part of the issue with that is that we're only doing 1 a year.
Exactly.
If we were doing like, different, what's the term that I'm looking for? Like classes, right? Into the Hall of Fame, that would, I think, smooth over a lot of that concern, because then it'd be like UZI and Def together or something like that.
Right.
That would make a little more sense in your eyes then.
It was also kind of funny, like going through the top 20 lists. I was trying to find some old ones. Like 2016, he's ranked 11th. So Deft and Bang and Prey would have been above him, which they were all on much better teams back then too. So obviously UZI is still a good player. I think
that's why you were looking for the top 20 lists.
Yeah, like even I don't think 2015 he was there. If you go through all those top 20 lists, I really don't. UZI wasn't ever ranked as the best AD at these events, even if he ended up being the best AD at this events, or because of just how he played. Again, it like really changed how that role was viewed. Because again, the cultural impact that he had on the game, like it cannot be denied, but.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put him at like the second best player of all time, right? And I know that that's not what the Hall of Legends is, but that's almost like my beef of it, because we all sat here last year and was like, all right, UZI's next. Like that is just the answer. But like it just doesn't. It's not great for honoring the history of the game for me. And I think that UZI should 100% be honored, but like I think that him being in the spot too, again, like that is the right pick. But just what is the Hall of Legends and the purpose of it? It feels like it is to sell skins and less so to honor like greats, which is a bummer for me.
I do think. Go ahead, Russ.
I disagree with the idea of him not being the second best player of all time.
Really? Okay. That's interesting.
So I think that's where the disagreement comes in, because everything we do agree on, which is like the heart and soul of what the award means. And the 2 other players that I'd probably even put in that you haven't mentioned would I fully expected if it was going to be about accomplishments, ambition, and like you can make a case for ruler.
I'd have Deft before UZI though, like in terms of ADs, and even in terms of LPL players, like Xiaohu should be in before UZI too.
My issue with Deft is that like when I think of, and this is why I brought up the idea of like less accomplishments, not meaning too much about how great a player was. Because you can go through any sports and see a player who is exceptional, like Charles and Allen Iverson, and I'm talking about those 2 players, of course, just because
I think Tracy McGrady is a good one.
Tracy McGrady is a great one too.
Yeah,
a lot of people who hate James Harden, understandable. That guy sucks at playoffs. But anyways, like true, that's true. They share the same thing. Anyways, but like my biggest issue is like you can still not have the team-wide accomplishments and still get the individual recognition for being as good as you are in that position for as long as you've been playing. Like Faker has been amazing throughout his entire career. So if you want to talk about him getting in, the only thing that I could ever, have be against is the fact that he's still actively playing. But I've heard some, responses to that I think is fair. Like people talk about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever.
He's one of the goats of the goats too. Like if you gave him that exception, I think it's actually fair. Because in terms of greats for like just in general, like you're gonna open this up to all sports, like his resume is legitimately like goat of goat territory, Like you can compare him against that. I think it's a cool privilege, but I'm with you that it sets a dangerous precedent because like when's Chovy gonna get in, right? Or like when's Knight gonna get in? Because those players like have already locked it up with the resume they have, right?
Exactly, and I think longevity is still something that I really care about. Like, so maybe they need to play a little longer, especially with Knight. But then going to the point about like context means so much. Yes, he didn't win that many LPL championships, like 2 or the 3rd if you're counting the regional finals. But who was his competition? Like that EDG lineup was fucking really good, insane. That was a super team.
Really good.
Exactly, that was a super team in my opinion. You can go through like they would pick up the best Koreans. You could talk about Pon in his era. Sure, people will question that.
4 out of 5 of those players are in a Hall of Fame for league.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, that's deep competition. And for up until like 2018, he was in the inferior roster, and that could be a great argument to have. But the amount that he was able to do, for China with the 2 events that I've mentioned, the gold medal that he was able to win. And of course the MSIs that he was able to win, but also just how he was able to win and how much respect every AD carry gives him that has played against him. It's one of those things where anytime people talk about NBA players, it's like he's your favorite NBA player's favorite player. Like he's like he's your favorite League of Legends player's favorite player. The amount of time,
Kyrie, man.
like I'll use Doublelift as an example. That guy doesn't glaze many people. In fact, he just shits on a lot of people. This man will infinitely glaze UZI any chance he gets. You can talk to any of the Korean players anytime there was an interview being done, anytime any players are going up against them. Those were UZI teams. The flaw happened, of course.
They had to be.
Yeah, the flaw happened in 2018 Worlds when I felt like you actually had a really well-rounded team, but they still, played heavily towards him when Xiaohu's fucking insane, but they wanted to put him on Karma. That's another discussion entirely. Yeah. But yes, I think how good he was individually is not up to question. His individual accomplishments in LPL, like all the All-Pros that he would get, first team All-Pros, is not up to question. How he performed internationally, individually,
that's why he's second on the list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Am I the only person on the call that's on the voting panel?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I am not.
So
I don't know if Raz is.
All right. So since you guys are speculating as to why people would vote one way, I'll tell you my methodology, because I guess after Faker I had to come up with the methodology. Was basically the impact that they've had on the sport in terms of Hall of Legends, which is in my mind an amalgamation of not just their performance and all that stuff, but also just the legacy that they left. Things like what Raz was just saying, which is what other players said about them, sort of the narrative impact that their teams have had on the game, their influence within their own region, where they stand historically on all this stuff. For me, I try to think about it from a bunch of different angles, which gets really complicated, I think, especially after you get past UZI in terms of other folks. But it's part of the reason why
interesting. We don't know who's going to get picked next year. We kind of knew who was going to get picked this year, right?
Yeah.
But it is part of the reason why, with my methodology, I feel like you aren't just limited to players from LPL and LCK. In terms of that, I think there are other players who, and I'm sure I'll get some heat for this, but players like Caps who've had such a huge impact on their regions, or people even going all the way back to XPeke eventually. I mean, it's tough whenever you get to a 1 a year type thing. It just becomes really difficult. But that has been my methodology for the reasons and why I voted the way that I did. And I know that there are arguments that you can make about achievements, or you can make around, I don't know, specific windows of performance or whatever. But for me, undoubtedly, UZI is the player behind Faker who has had the most impact on the sport even globally. Like obviously he was huge as a player in the LPL and in China, but like just I think across the board, it's hard to think of anybody that bests him. You know.
I think that in that frame as well, like so many players, I think this is more to Raz's point. So many players are playing because of UZI. Like I don't know to what extent, but like would we have the Jackie Loves? Would we have the Elks if it weren't for a player like UZI to kind of blaze that trail first? There's an argument that they still would be around, but he's kind of the blueprint for how to do it.
Jackie Loves definitely inspired by UZI if you watch him play. You know.
Yeah. I do, and that's I think also why I think with my methodology it's kind of nice too, because that allows like support players. Like I feel like it's one of those things where support players would have a hard time in this if you went purely by
for Mata next year, like have real chances depending on where you want to go. You know,
I was thinking Mata for sure as not as like number 3, but just in terms of players who I think are now up there, especially in the support.
Or Mako. I mean, Mako's still playing, but we've already set the precedence. So
yeah.
Like Mako's probably a great example of somebody who's won Worlds, won MSIs, like from Tallahassee where it all started.
I mean, him and Ming are like the 2 support goats of LPL, right? Like they were the 2 guys who could always compete. That's a good shout too.
I will say,
I'll be curious to see who gets in next.
I will say I'm not surprised, but I am more. Well, I guess initially I was surprised, but once we talk about how this is like a pretty good money. This is a way in which much of the sport is funded is through these things. I am a little surprised and disappointed that that it's not Vayne as the skin. Like I feel like the Ari thing was more in line. Like it was probably between Rise or Ari for Faker, but like this is.
I would have accepted all of them.
Yeah, I just like. I'm a little disappointed because I do feel like it should be representative of their, like the champion that they're most well known for. But it might also be a thing, you know, I hope that if this is the case, they come out and say this, but like it might also be a thing where they make it in collaboration with the player. And maybe there's a world where UZI was like, listen, I'm trying to make this I'm trying to buy my final house. Like, let's do Kaisa.
He's a dad, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, it's kind of an age check. I'm not going to lie. It's like, to be honest, the newest stage players will know him by Kaisa because of what he's done with Kaisa when he was playing in China at the later portions of his like peak was on Kaisa. Like he was such a Kaisa player, it was crazy. Whereas back in the day, he was getting pentakills on Vayne. I think 3 of them. Like he was such an insane prolific Vayne player. So I feel like yes, I would say Vayne. And I'm sure if you ask him, he's gonna say Vayne because of the nostalgia. But
it has to be Vayne. I use Dragon Slayer Vayne because of him, like to this day, you know?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Do you think he would say Vayne even if they showed him sales numbers that was like, listen, here's how much you projected to make with Vayne. Here's how much we projected to make with Kaisa. I feel like maybe he's like, Kaisa's, you know, I've always thought of myself as more of a Kaisa player, you know?
True.
They definitely made sure that like he had his kid in his lap when they asked him Vayne or Kaisa, you know?
Yeah.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, real hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if there's too much more to say on this, but I do wonder how this will play out. I will say that like the rollout of this has been a little weird. Like, so for instance, halloflegends.leagueoflegends.com, which is one of the first things that pop up whenever you search Hall of Legends. It just says the Hall of Legends 2024 event has concluded, and then it has a link to like a support page. If you go to lawlesports.com and you click on Hall of Legends UZI trailer, there's nothing there. There's not it's just an image. So
I don't even know if because I try to not comment on leaks. So when I saw the LPL English, which is like literally they fixed it.
Yeah, they fixed the LOL esports link. I think because I emailed them around this, or maybe they were already figuring it out as I was realizing this issue.
Giving yourself credit.
It's my birthday.
All right, there we go. Understandable.
But you were gonna say something, Rez?
Yeah. I mean, I just didn't know if it was public or not because I saw the LPL English Twitter account post it, and I was like, okay. League of Legends posted it, I guess, because they retweeted it. So I was like, okay, but I didn't see it from anywhere else, so I was worried.
Yeah,
but,
I got embargoed on it, and they had said that they were. I got an email from. Let's see if I can read this. From Mark Zimmerman.
Can you say like how many voters there are? Out of curiosity.
I don't actually know because it doesn't like they BCC us all.
BCC,
so
yeah. I'd be curious about that because I mean, obviously you're someone that's like been around for a long time, but I mean, I think like if Raz gets a vote, I mean, he's like you've been involved in history a lot. Like I think Emily Ranch could vote.
Yeah,
sure.
Mark emailed me. We wanted to let you know that at 6 p.m. Pacific, May 19th, we'll share our announcement of this year's Hall of Legends inductee. Blah, blah. We're excited about this. Feel free to share how you voted if you wanted to. Thanks again, and can't wait for many more. And then I just replied, wow, celebrating my birthday with UZI. And then he did not reply.
Yeah, that's funny. To be clear,
Travis loves guns, confirmed, you know?
To be clear, if I made a stink of it, I'm sure I would. But personally, like, I already made my statements clear. Like, I didn't really personally care about the award because of its inception and concept. So... Like,
yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I think it's fair to continue to have the discussion, but I also think you don't want it to be a thing where every time a player gets announced, it's like, hooray, it's this player. And then a bunch of comments are like, I wish that this all worked differently. And, like, you know, it's like, well, it is kind of nice to celebrate the player without letting that stuff overshadow. But I think it's fair to continue to have the conversation. And
I wish they had a real Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
again, like UZI should 100% like be honored in league history, and like I think that again he was the no-brainer pick for this. But I wish the league had a Hall of Fame. It's like what are players like? You know, Diamond Prox or Mad Life or like even BRTT or like Utapon going to be honored, right?
Yeah. I wonder if there's like a secondary system they could create where it's like within the Hall of Legends, there's like the lobby of legends or something. It's like the entryway of legends or something.
The front door of legends.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here's my final counterpoint. Because I think what ultimately works against UZI in the West has always been the popularity of the LPL versus like the LCK.
That's true.
Not a lot throughout its history. The Western audience just doesn't watch the LPL. You can say a lot of reasons for it. I understand. But like, if Chovy has been playing for, let me say, 4 more years, he's still at the top. He's still winning MSIs. Never wins Worlds. And you know, you can make the case about Chovy and 4 wards or something like that, or what is Lehan's doing. You know, you can do that. But like if he's winning other awards, if he's winning other championships but not winning Worlds, and if it's being used against him, I would have a problem with that. Like, but I think the reason why I use that as an example is I think people would look on him a little bit more favorably in those conditions. It's a hypothetical, so it's not the greatest argument to make. But I wanted to make that clear because I think people just, at the moment, don't have the context for how he got to his accomplishments, or are working against him because, of course, your favorite player is not him. You're like, you a lot of people are gonna be like, why didn't you know, Ruler, Daft, or all these guys who are my favorite personal players? I'm not saying that's what you know, Cubby's saying, but a lot of people are gonna have that perspective.
I mean,
so
I
like,
didn't watch the LPL until Def went to EDG, so yeah, like that, yeah. So you're not wrong, you know, 100%.
Yeah. So it's like that. It is what it is, and I think. What about the Shy? Isn't he also in the discussion? Ooh, that brother's career is too short, brother. And right now he's stinking it up. That brother's stinking it up on IG.
The only other thing I'll add for UZI is
we should wrap this up. So
I know there are a lot of splits though where like he was injured that would come back, and that was hype as hell. Like throughout history, or like he just like wait a little bit to play in the split because he started to have issues like later on. And it was just like, when is UZI gonna come back? That was actually like a really fun part that like happened in a few splits too. Which someone adds to his legacy, I think, as well, unironically.
Thank you so much, Raz, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out to you know, my favorite. What do you call these shows? Call-in shows? Yeah, call-in show hosts. Travis Gafford. What's your middle? What is the first word? What is the first letter in your middle name? Do you have a middle name?
It's a secret.
Damn it. Okay, Travis Godhand Blitzcrank Gafford. All right.
I think Cubby's the only one here who knows, and he's not going to say it to dox me.
Okay, fair enough. But like, yeah, happy birthday. I was at your birthday for a little bit. You know, it is what it is. I had other obligations, but
it is what it is. No, I do appreciate you coming through because I know.
Man there, I cannot confirm.
Yeah. I actually, funny story. I saw Raz leaving the studio. While I was driving straight to the bar where I was having my thing. It was like after LTA, and I was just driving by like where he was walking like a block away, and I pulled up next to him and said, "Hey, want to hop in the car and go to my party?" And he said, "No." And then I drove off.
What did I really say? What did I really say?
He said, "No, I have work I have to do."
That is true.
He said, keep yourself safe.
I literally had to fucking prepare for Player of the Week interview, pros episode, and then the final day, of course, of like asset requests and stuff. So like when I actually walked up to your thing, I came up a little late than what I expected because I also talked to, you know, Flowers, and he was like, "Yeah, it's just at this bar." It's like, okay. And I just had to cram in work, and then my friends were like, "Okay, we're going to the party now." I was like, "Hold up, I'm going to Travis's place first." I go to Travis's thing, talk as much as I can. I was literally late for my other obligation that I had first. I did whatever I could. Meanwhile, the people that you literally pay did not show up. What does that say, Travis?
You know what? That's a great point. That's a great point.
I'm dedicated.
You actually showed up for me, unlike the people who I pay who didn't show up for me. All right. Thank you so much, Raz, for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Sorry, Cubby, for throwing you under the bus. Goodbye.
I have a good excuse. Fine, you know.
I mean,
all
I'm
right.
not sorry at all.
I owe you a few, Travis. So, yeah.
All right. We got a lot more to talk about, but we're going to first take a quick break to talk about NZXT, who's sponsoring the show. Thank you so much to NZXT. When I have been in the living room playing Expedition 33, I'm not playing it on a console. I'm not playing on anything like that. I'm playing it on the new PC that they sent me. It's kind of nice. I set it up out there so that before I move everything over from the current NZXT PC I have, I can send things over that direction. But yeah, it's been fantastic having the new 5090 edition player PC that they sent my way. The thing is just super beautiful. It's been amazing to play that game on that computer, just like max settings, just never see any kind of stutter, never see any issues. It's been a wonderful PC to have with the GeForce RTX 5090 in it. The Player 3 Prime has been what I've started to use, and we're going to be migrating over to that soon for producing Hotline League and all that stuff. But if you are interested in picking up your own NZXT PC, go over to nzxt.co/Travis. That's nzxt.com without the M. Don't use the M. And then when you do, please use code Travis5 to save 5% on your order. And again, I always talk about the PCs because obviously I'm streaming this from an NZXT PC, but they have all sorts of things like components. If you like to build your own PC, why not just grab a case from them? You can order one directly from them, use my code, use the link. It's great. They've got fans, they've got CPU coolers, they've got power supplies, they've got all sorts of stuff. So please go check out NZXT. Fantastic partner with the show. And please, again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, but go check out the podcast that they did with me over on their channel. Their YouTube is just the NZXT YouTube channel. And tell them in the comments that I sent you there, because I'm sure it's nice for them to see, like, hey, this guy who we did the podcast with actually had people show up to watch the episode with him or listen to the episode. It was a pretty good conversation. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. I just got an alert that Jorban Live is the new top clipper at 5 views. He's on the Clips leaderboard. Apparently, there's now Twitch now like exposes people for clipping things and stuff. Interesting. Okay. Should we get into... Oh, we already have the next caller here. Good job. Cubby's pulled somebody already. bigmooseehh. Is that how you say your name?
bigmooseehh. Yes. Canadian.
bigmooseehh. Okay. Is that Canadian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where in Canada are you calling from?
London, Ontario.
London, Ontario. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay. I wanted to talk about the Honda issue with Team Liquid.
Yeah.
I know you talked about it, prefacing it earlier. But my major concern was it being esports winter, more or less already. It's been quite stagnating in this sort of condition for quite some time. My concern is that other large name-facing brands that league has currently. I know Team Liquid and Honda was just a team sponsorship. They weren't sponsoring the LTA as a whole. But my main concern is being such a prevalent S-tier name-facing brand as they are, that other sponsors such as Kia, AT&T, Red Bull, MasterCard, just to name a few that sponsor the LTA specifically, might see this move and back out of sponsorships or not renew, such as Honda chose to not do going into next season, which will significantly stunt the already failing financial crisis that esports and specifically the LTA currently is going through or suffering in.
So you're saying you're worried that they're going to sorry, I understand you're saying you think they're going to leave, but are you saying you think they're going to leave because they saw Honda leave?
Correct. I think this could be a grain of sand that slowly trickles down the mountain, causing a landslide in congruent effect.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to understand the connections. What do you think? Why is it that Honda leaving would lead? Like, okay, if I'm AT&T, why am I like, oh, Honda left, we should leave too?
I believe this to be the case because Honda is such a significant, massive forward-facing brand. It's not like it's some tiny brand name that is attaching just for a short period of time. They've been a sponsor for Team Liquid for quite some time, and it's so massive to the scale that they've had in impact with the league, like many ads showcasing with their players on like media breaks and pauses. They have a lot of FaceTime camera time. I feel like that would be significant enough for other brands, specifically like Kia being another car brand, being terrified of the attachment to the league and seeing players as flight risks that they might opt out of or use this as a reason to opt out of sponsorship within the league.
So I disagree with this for two reasons. One being, and I'm not like a business development guy, but I know the little bit about marketing I do know. Maybe Matt can back me up. Brands like it when their name is next to another popular brand. So if there's a show that has multiple brands, like let's take like MasterCard for example, right? Like that brings esteem to the league. Honda leaving Team Liquid does not affect the league; it affects the team. So I disagree for that statement, or from that side alone. That like sponsors for the league itself, I would be surprised if this affects their thoughts. And if anything, if I work for Kia, I'm like, all right, no more competition on screen on the jerseys and stuff. So I think those are two reasons that I just don't think that that's a valid concern.
Yeah, okay, so a bunch of things to dive in here. One, Kangas just said exactly what I was thinking, which is like, I don't think Kia was probably really happy about the fact that there were times where the Kia MVP, or sorry, yeah, the Kia MVP was being handed to a player in a jersey that had a giant Honda logo on it, right? Like
they split them up actually at the tailgate. Like they put them on opposite sides as well, which is kind
Kia
of funny.
and Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. I think if you're Kia, you're celebrating this situation. Not that they're celebrating like the scandal aspect of it, right? But they're hearing that Honda will not be on one of the most popular teams on the front of the jersey and all that stuff. That is like a thing that I think actually should be relieving to Kia. In terms of, oh, Honda's leaving the space, is that going to cause like a cascade effect? Bud Light left the space. Verizon was here before AT&T and they got replaced by them.
State Farm,
Grubhub, State Farm, all the stuff. Like, in one sense, it's not great to list a bunch of really big brands that are no longer in the space, but like there is a pretty consistent level of churn. And as Kangas was saying, like this is more on the player or on the team level. And the other thing is like you don't have the Honda CEO or like Honda CMO or somebody coming out being like, we don't believe in esports anymore. We invested in these teams and it was a mistake. In fact, if anything, I think their statement said that they remain committed to like supporting gaming and stuff like that. How much that means, I guess we'll see. But there's not like it seems like it was mostly done because of a Rainbow Six Siege player, right? Like this is not even a response to something that happened in the League of Legends space. So I think there are reasons to be concerned about sponsors renewing, and that's primarily about like viewership dropping this year, about fatigue maybe around esports in general. Like those are valid concerns, but I don't feel like this Honda thing is going to lead to any kind of. I would be shocked to learn that it plays a decision at all in any renewal or lack of renewal from any sponsor going forward.
my counterpoint to that would be this is one of the more highlighted instances of individual players being seen as flight risks within this scene. I know you're referencing it being a Rainbow Six Siege player, but
You mean brand
regardless,
risk?
yeah, sorry, brand risk, and
Yeah.
and again, it's a Siege player, but players, especially gamers, have are constantly online. It's not like athletes who kind of don't tend to. It's kind of hit or miss on whether or not they're plugged in, if you would. Whereas esports players are constantly online, constantly have connections, constantly are plugged in that sense. And I think they could be seen as a whole as more of a like I
Risk.
keep saying, like a flight risk for these large brands, and these brands can't really control what they would and wouldn't say, and this is just putting a spotlight on this fact is true, and maybe it's just been stagnant for a while, and it could come to fruition more in the future.
But that has
and brands might
always been
see
the
that and
case.
not enjoy that.
That has always been the case, and it's 2025. Like, these brands work with people all the time who are risks. Like, it is just that there are more people getting canceled than there have been before, and
All right.
and there are people, like, it's always a risk that you're going to go back and you're going to find some tweet that your director that you just hired for your Disney Marvel film has made that was like a really tasteless joke that was made like a decade ago, and then it's going to blow up and all this stuff. So like I just don't. Yes, gamers say bad things. They say gamer words. There's a reason why they're memed as being called gamer words. Like, all this stuff is true, but look, I think this is an unusual set of circumstances because we've seen players do stuff like this before. They will do it again, and traditionally there's no brand reaction to it, or if there is, it's because they're like, hey, the team is gonna discipline this player or cut ties with them or something like that. I think this was just a very extreme example where the nature of the incident was very specific to this company, and that is what led this to happen. So, I think, for instance, if this had like there have been tasteless jokes and comments and shitty things that have been said before, and it's not like we've seen a slew of brands leave in those situations. So I don't think this is like the beginning of a trend,
No, I hear you. But even just sitting here and pondering it even further, I'm less concerned more specifically for the LTA. I'm more specifically concerned even further about just esports in general. The more I just sit here and think about it, is yes, you could say that the LTA or League of Legends as a whole is less affected in general. Just like you said, R6 Siege player, it's kind of not really tied to anything to do with League of Legends. But to me, I'm more concerned of brands seeing this as an esports player, not really controlled, hard to really.
But this happens all the time.
But
like what changed?
Esports players, but you very infrequently find esports players to be media trained in any manner, shape, or form. It's like we see that with with Shade, and these individuals don't really have much media training. The budgets really aren't there. So my concern is people with freedom of speech as vast as esports players have, they are going to be seen as risks to these brands otherwise compared to athletes.
But this has been the case for 13 years.
I feel so privileged to be in esports and have greater freedom of speech than like anyone else. That sounds great.
I'm not saying freedom of speech is a bad thing, but it's a concern and risk for brands.
What changed? Like besides the fact this is a recent headline, what changed?
It can be a spotlight shown on something that hasn't been previously shown, and people can get scared.
But this has been previously shown so many times. I'm not trying to talk down to you by any means. I just I can tell you this is not the first time an esports player has done something shitty or fucked up. There was a huge scandal in the Overwatch League. Not to say that that's necessarily still around, but there for many different players that were in that space. Like there have been a lot of scandals in league. Like there's this all the same stuff happens in traditional sports in terms of players doing really fucked up shit. And I'm not saying that like we're at the scale of the NBA or NFL, but like players in traditional sports have committed murder. Like
there's a documentary about bringing guns to locker rooms.
Being associated with a sport is always going to be an inherent risk for any brand, because players in those spaces can do bad things. And I don't think that like brands are going to look at this and be like, fuck, we got to get out of esports and go to someplace safe, like working with celebrities who never have scandals, or traditional sports where people they never have scandals, or like creator, like there's just always stuff, you know, like Mr. Beast had his huge scandal not too long ago, and I'm not saying that didn't impact his sponsor viability, but it's like brands there are not safe places to play on this type of stuff. So like I don't think that the sort of apocalypse that you're worried about is going to come based off this Honda thing. I think it's going to come based off of viewership, if anything.
Well, like you said, when you said what has changed, more specifically, my first mindset goes to like esports as a whole has been in a major downtick for what would you say the past like 4 years, specifically. That to me is what has changed the most. Teams are struggling to be able to turn profit. Esports is a very hard industry to turn profit in and be long-term successful in. Like we see that with Disguise being heavily subsidized by and given money towards by the LTA just to come in and play. My concern is with the whole ecosystem of esports as a whole. Brands will see this and could potentially use this as an opportunity to have their fears be justified and take this opportunity to step out of esports and cut their losses while they're not necessarily ahead, but you know, leave esports as a whole. And that's concerning, being a fan.
Yeah, I think if your take is we're in a tough spot, this type of stuff doesn't help, I would agree with you. But I think like if we lose sponsors, it's because of all the other things you just talked about, not because of like this incident. So, but I do know we have a lot more takes to get into, so I don't want to harp on this too long. Is there anything that you would like to shout out here at the end of the call, Big Mooseeh?
Yes, more specifically, I want to shout out all of you guys. Nothing else. I've been listening to this show for a very long time, mostly on Spotify at work when I'm trying to get through the workday, and this is the first time I've been able to really catch it on Twitch live. Normally, I'm asleep by now. And I just want to say thank you for all your years of tireless, dedicated work, and it is incredibly appreciated to a lot of people that can't catch this show live, and I'm one of them. So I thank you. This is my first time calling in, and I'm incredibly appreciative of everything you guys do.
Thank you. It's always super fun for me when I hear that somebody who like listens to the VOD or can't listen live is able to finally call in. So I really appreciate you making the time. I think that's super fun.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah, have a good one. Thank you.
Take care.
Man, now I feel bad for the one snarky response a little bit, you know?
I mean, I think...
I'm pretty sure he was talking about me when he was thanking all of us. So
yeah, of course.
No, I think it's fine. It's fun. Back and forth in these calls.
Next caller.
Yeah. Thank you to a whole bunch of people. Thank you to Tamaine, the Dixie Cup, EMBW. How's it going, EMBW? Benson with the 10 gifted. Very much appreciate it, Benson. Thank you for the birthday gifts. Woe to you and Pangstrom. And then David sent 10 viewers in and then immediately insulted my ability to be single or my current relationship status.
You got him back.
Yeah. He says I should try it having a wife sometime. Bobby Cart, thank you for becoming a member over there. Power Surge. Avius, thank you. Ben, thank you. And then Clickerby, thank you for the $36 super chat, giving me $7 more than the birthday. So that's very generous of you to go over the top. We got our next caller here. It's dongkun. Dongkun, am I saying your name correctly?
It's pronounced dongkun. It's my Korean name, but mostly everyone just says like dongkun. So either one's fine.
I
Dong
feel
is
like
fine.
part of me was like, I would like to attempt to pronounce it the way that it's intended.
Oh no, it's okay.
But then I was like, if I do that, I feel like it's going to sound really dumb and shitty because I'm just unable to speak other languages. So, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York.
New York. What would you like to talk about on the show?
So my take is that I think Busio is going to be a future GOAT of the LTA.
Ooh, that's a fun take.
What do you mean by future?
Well, I think he's still relatively. He's not like new, but he's definitely not like a long-standing career. But I'm not like super analytical about the game. I'm not like super smart about it, but there was a video that kind of inspired this take. It was a short that LTA posted of one of their mic checks. I don't know. Can I like share it in the topics?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you should throw it in there. I'll at least take a look.
Yeah,
I don't know if you get a lot.
I
it's
can get
this
the link in the
video.
chat if you want. Got it.
I'm sure like you guys probably seen it, but he has some really good communication where he calls out.
Let me see if I can play it. We won't be able to have the video, but let me see. Hopefully it's not too loud. I apologize in advance.
Careful, guys. Maybe Ezreal has ult.
Oh, I remember this comm. Yeah, this was a good one. I love hearing like any time we get insights into players and how they communicate with each other.
Yeah, this one really kind of stuck out to me because he definitely, I don't think, him calling out Rakanal, saved the whole game because it definitely was more on Masu, hitting his ultimate. But I could definitely see in the future, like in future games, if he keeps up this level of communication, it could definitely save like a game where maybe someone didn't notice someone ulting. So I do think it's important to kind of like, highlight some players that maybe don't have the spotlight on them as much compared to like, some of their other teammates, like Whippo and Inspired, how they're kind of the faces of, FlyQuest, I would say. But I think Busio is, honestly just as great as them. So I just want to kind of just
I would honestly argue that while I know that like Whippo and Inspire are like the big name stars, I feel like Busio has been pushing his way into the front of FlyQuest attention for a while. Like, while I understand it's really hard to make a name for yourself as like a support in terms of being like a flashy player or whatever, I do think he shows a lot of personality in a lot of his stuff. He's one of my favorite players to interview in the league. He's like pretty great at memeing on social media. I know we had that whole conversation with Basil who called in, but like it was funny to see him meme like the clip that Elaine posted on Twitter of him and Basil sitting together and watching the game and all that stuff. So like,
might have quote retweeted yours truly.
Yeah.
Here.
So like, if people haven't looked at Busio's Twitter account, I would go recommend because he
is one of the most active and consistently entertaining players that we have on social media. So yeah, highly recommend following him.
Yeah. He posted this picture on April 26th asking what I think it's like a cactus or aloe vera in front of the LTA studio is, and that seems to have popped off pretty well compared to his other tweets. So maybe there's something there. But yes, I would go recommend following him because I think he's pretty good. So I actually really enjoy him, and I obviously that's more like the out of game stuff. But I take your point on this clip where it does feel like he's like a pretty smart dude, and I feel like his tendency to play is pretty good.
I know, Cubby, you and I can talk about his experience in NACL and like on the come up there and his creative engages, his ability to like kind of control games from the support position, which not a lot of supports in NACL are tier 2 good. I guess it was technically, I think, Academy back then, but not NACL yet. But
that was a fun one though, because so Busio, like for those that don't know for background, because Kangas was on at the time for our team, but the most valuable prospect award, that was really like highly contentious in the summer. We had a team of 8 and we were completely split on the votes. And like for reference, this is us. It was between Busio and Ewa, who played in the same role. And Ayla was, at the time, hands down, like, the better player, right? But Busio, he improved a lot that year playing support. And we actually had to have Kelsey, like, be the tiebreaker vote.
Yeah, I voted Ayla, for the record.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty much, I campaigned really hard for Busio, and then Josh campaigned pretty hard for Ayla.
Yep.
And, you know, not to brag, but the clips and document that I had for that meeting was a little bit better, you know?
So that's kind of how the voting went, is we'd always like show our evidence for why we thought it. And what I always liked about, again, Busio was the creative engages, but what I like about his development, and you can see as a player when we look at these player comms, I remember older FlyQuest comms, especially his rookie year. I guess this was 100 Thieves rookie year coming in, but like I didn't hear him talk nearly as much. But now that he's getting comfortable on stage, he's comfortable being more of an in-game leader for the team. It's still definitely Bwipo that's like the primary voice you hear when you're listening in on FlyQuest comms. But Busio is the one feeding more information. Bwipo saying like, "Let's do this." Busio saying, "This is an option. Like this is open. This is open. Like look for that." Right. So like he's really good at finding necessary information for everybody to be aware of in the game, which I think is really, really important.
Yeah.
Good.
So
when he first came into like the ecosystem, he was the mid laner that role swapped to support. When he was on 100 Thieves Next, so like before he played Acad, he was 16, and I was part of the team that put together like all the interviews for the players. Like I helped 100 Thieves out with that video, and the only person that all the interviews were scheduled for Papa Smithy, and the only person that Papa Smithy pinged me like after I was done interviewing them was Busio, and that's because like he 100% knew what he had. That kid he's a really like smart, intelligent, impressive kid. Like I've been lucky. I grew up in a family of teachers, and I've gotten the chance to like work with a lot of youth throughout my time too, even if I'm a marketing major. And as a 16-year-old, like he was one of the most impressive 16-year-olds I've talked to. And so to kind of see him come into his own this year, I think it's been a lot of fun, because as support's a tough role. Like you play against a lot of experienced players that will role swap there just to, you know, stay relevant or like stay in the league or be able to help a team. And I think that Busio with that role, like definitely had growing pains. I mean, we saw it with Academy. Sometimes you have to grieve to figure it out. For him, he did that there, and then a little bit on LCS too. But I'm really glad he ended up with FlyQuest, and I think that he has been the best support in the league so far this year, and that's really not contentious. So, yeah, that's it's been really fun, honestly, to see him come into his own. I feel like he's really coming into his own this year.
I don't know if Sniper is still in Twitch chat. Sniper was in Twitch chat earlier. Sniper, do you think that Busio has better social media game than you do? Because I feel like it's between the two of them, but he's a little ahead right now. I gotta say, Sniper, you gotta step up, man. Where the tweets at?
I feel like Sniper just came by to like snipe the chat and get reactions and stuff, and then he disappeared. So I don't know if he's still here. But I do want to give our friend a chance to give any shout outs. Anything you want to say here at the end of the call? Or anything you add?
Yeah, shout outs to I just want to say thank you for all the insight too. That was really awesome to hear about, you know, the whole history that you have with Busio. But yeah, shout out to the sponsors. I don't know what the names are of them, but shout out to them. Happy birthday, Travis. I've always loved listening or watching all of your content. And shout out to Classic Maple Story coming out kind of soon. So yeah.
Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Looks like we've got one more caller in the waiting room, but I'm still looking for a couple.
Yeah, I'm going to pull more. I was just kind of seeing like what time we were going to be at. So we'll pull this one, and then we'll grab some more. Anything else that you want to hear about or talk about, Travis?
No, I mean, I think obviously the games this past week, and I'm surprised. I don't know if we have anybody in the waiting room to talk about the C9 collapse, I guess. You know, if we have a near airport drama call, anything like that would be.
We also have even like playoffs. Like we didn't even talk about that at the top of the show. But, like, we have the playoff bracket set now.
Oh, actually, I know one thing I have completely forgot at the top of the show. I completely forgot about this. All pro voting is this week.
That too. Yep.
So I will be submitting a ballot on Wednesday. If people want to make a like pitch for me to vote, I always do this every split. Like this is the episode to try to pitch me on why you think somebody should be an all pro or something like that, player of the they call it player of the split now instead of MVP. I don't know what they call it, but
there was someone in here went by the name of Andy Barton that thought Inspired should be MVP. So maybe
it's a weird
maybe we get a call for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That seems a little sus.
Maybe not.
Right. People who don't follow the teams very closely are going to be very confused by that joke. All right. But yeah, it's a great time. So please go put those takes into the pleb topics and subtopics because we still have space and we can run a little bit over because I know we started a little late. So thank you to Sparts for the 2 years and Spud Tugger for the 3 years. Holy shit, 24 months and 36 months. Thank you guys. Really appreciate all the support. We got Cubby grabbing the next caller. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, looking at the chat, Andy says it's wine night for him. So I see what's happening. Vote Shaden so he's forced to give another interview. So true. I did like that they leaned into it on the broadcast with the
they did a nice job
with the Shaden tier list thing. Yeah,
did a nice job with them this week.
Good.
Yeah. He played good.
Pretty good.
Olaf pick was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sad they didn't do another interview with him after he got was it player of the series or whatever. So Yami's here. Yami, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from near Baltimore. I'm calling from near Baltimore.
What would you like to talk about on the show?
Okay, so I would like to talk on the show today about how Near Airport is dramatically underperforming expectations, and a large part of it seems to be due to some of the players on the team just not really caring. Either that or being incredibly more washed than I thought was ever possible. And I'm leaning towards the former. And I remember, when this team was first announced, a caller called in and they were concerned because they were saying, these are retired pro players. I don't think they want to put the amount of energy that NICO requires into it. And, some people were concerned. I remember a caller called in, like I said, I was watching, I was concerned. I was just me and this caller who were independent people. I think it might sound like I'm coyly implying it was me. It was not me. It was good that we were going to see this team not put the kind of work that we were expecting into it, or that was going to be required into it. And for a couple of weeks we had a bit of a honeymoon period where NA was performing pretty well. They weren't the best team in the league, but they were doing okay. The cracks started to show towards the end of the season. We saw them drop a couple games to teams that they really shouldn't be dropping games to. And then we saw them drop a game to the 6th place team, which was a little bit concerning, but that was fine. Then we saw them drop
playoffs, and then playoffs came. And you can fill it in.
Then they lost again to the 6th place team, the same team who they were dropping games to before, and they got knocked down into the lower bracket, Travis. And that would be concerning enough, right? If we could, if for any other team, you might be looking in from the outside, wondering what had happened, and only left to speculate. But luckily, this team they've let us into their inner workings. We can see what's happening. Yeah. And what we can see is that these players who we were concerned and were assured by people who know the scene better than us, certain people on this show were assured these are competitive guys. They're not just going to blow off NACL to go do something like partying in Vegas for a weekend or do some other thing, one of their many other commitments. They were committed to League. This was something they were taking seriously. And, today it broke that it turns out some of these guys, they were leaving. They were showing up late to scrims because they were busy partying in Vegas. All
right. I get. I know we're reenacting the whole experience, but yes, your general concern. It sounds like maybe you can give me the succinct take.
Okay, the succinct version is Near Airport does not seem to be putting in the level of effort that is required to succeed in NACL, and it kind of feels like they showed up, thought it would be easy, and when it wasn't, they didn't really readjust. And not only it's not like a team-wide thing, it's also the people who were the biggest problems in the last series. I know Devil Wolf was very fed, but he kind of solo through game 3. Yep. And TF Blade was kind of getting gapped by Denethor. So those are like the two players who were the biggest problems, were the two players who did not show
Do we know why TF Blade wasn't there? Because we know why Doublelift was there or was not there.
Biofrost was on the bench, and it was for classes.
Okay.
So he had like a test or something for the second series.
Okay.
Everyone else was. It was.
Oh, but TF Blade was not at VOD review, right?
I don't know why he wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we know publicly.
All I'm going to say, two things. First off, I can't believe Cubby would lie to you and lead you astray that they were going to be taking this super seriously. That's really rude to do, first of all. Second of all, I really think that this shows the difference between, experience and also just talent. Like, these are good players at League of Legends, but the difference between just a bunch of really good players getting together versus a team getting together throughout an entire split. Yes, at the beginning, Near Airport was looking really good because their floor was above everyone else's floor. But other teams that are taking practice a little more seriously and most importantly are hungrier for the title. You think about motivation right now. What's the motivation for Near Airport to win? I don't even know. I don't think I can really place one other than just like a YouTube thumbnail and title that says "We won NACL." That's basically the motivation, right? I guess I haven't talked to the guys, so who knows? They're competitive, but they've already won much bigger things in this other than TF Blade.
Oh yeah.
So I think that motivation wise, think about it from the perspective of these other teams facing them that just won it way more and are going to be way hungrier on the day, and also have been taking their reviews and practice much more seriously. I'm not surprised that we're seeing Near Airport fall off. I think that they still will be title contenders. They're still going to be in the conversation just because they are that good. But I am not at all surprised that they are showing, growing pains here. Or maybe not even growing pains, just that the other teams are improving at a faster rate than they are.
I'm trying to decide how I ever since I saw this, I was trying to decide how I feel about it. Do we know what their schedule traditionally has been? Because I know so feels like most of the emphasis that I've seen in the community reaction is towards Doublelift. I know that they were not at a place where they and they were clear about the fact that they were never going to be in a place where they were scrimming every day and grinding as hard as everybody else, because they wanted to try to find hey, we want to do this project while also preserving work-life balance, which I think is fair. I think it's completely fair for them to say, hey, our days of trying to compete on the LTA or LCS stage is over. We're trying to figure out how we can do this without it being the balance. So I know he was out of town this weekend, but do they normally scrim on the weekends? If anybody knows it, please shout it out in chat or something. Sure. Yeah, because I know they still stream it. So
that they said they were going to try and scrim twice a week, and I think that they've been pretty good at doing that and broadcasting that.
Yeah, I feel like the people that are oh, he was at EDC, it's okay, but were they going to be scrim? And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do scrim a ton, and this normally they scrim on the weekends or something, and this was a big deal. But if this was going to be their normal issue anyway, then I don't know. I think he was, what I saw was people saying that he was traveling back from Vegas today, so maybe that was part of the issue. But
he had the creator tournament too, with AT&T, that was big, so that took time away from them. But
yeah,
they had some subs that they played with, right? So it's not if they still wanted to practice, they could. Obviously, it's not the same when you don't have the 5, but it's not like they weren't playing.
Yeah. So people are saying they don't normally scrim on the weekends because they're co-streaming LTA. So yeah, I feel like if there are criticisms to be made of this team, which I feel like there might be, I think people saying, well, he was off in Vegas for the weekend whenever he would normally just be co-streaming anyway and not streaming. I don't know if that's worth. It's one of those things that sounds very sensational and spicy, and everybody likes to talk about the Doublelift Lena stuff, but is that really relevant to this conversation?
Oh, I think he was just honoring one of his old teammates in a random trip that they might have taken out there.
He was doing the Smithy rave experience or whatever.
No, the Sword Art excursion.
Oh, okay. I was thinking more of whenever Smithy used to go off to raves and all that stuff, and then I tried to put him down in interviews about it. But, but yeah. So I don't know. I do think that for me, I'm hopeful that this is a wake up call for the team, because and I do think it's interesting that we're seeing, as we always talked about, is it a good idea to stream scrims? Is it a good idea to stream this type of stuff? like this is one of those moments where like these types of conversations happen frequently with teams in different ways and all this stuff, and so now it's public. But I do expect that they are going to try to buckle down this week because obviously it would be very embarrassing for them to go out, and I know that they were always very confident in themselves, and so this is hopefully something that will shake them awake. Obviously this is a tier 2 conversation, so Kangas, I know you kind of weighed in a little bit, but I don't know if either of you have more thoughts on this.
You want to go first, Steve? I got some.
I mean, I basically gave mine. I think that the average tier 2 player is going to be hungrier for a win than the players on your airport, despite the fact that I think the players on your airport are still good players.
Look, like what they're doing, I mean, to do what some of those guys have accomplished, you got to be really freaking competitive. And I think that signing up for something where you know that you aren't going to compete at 100%, but still try to compete at 100% is actually really difficult. I mean, I'm competitive. Like I battle that. I don't get to cast as much as I used to. Like I don't perform as well as I feel like I used to at times, and that bugs me. Like it's hard to like find ways to like make up for that. And obviously they're signing up for this knowing that they have other responsibilities. That can be tough. I think that everything that we've seen with Near Airport, this happens all the times in teams, and it's just like dramatized because it's this squad. And
because it's all happening on air, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like Pobal to be like, hey, we agreed to this meeting and they didn't show up. I'm telling you guys, every other team behind the scenes is like struggling with the same exact thing, right? It's just that they're the big names and like they're broadcasting it. So, I mean, obviously that's not great, and I think that some of the struggles they have been something. But it's been so funny reading some of the discourse on like tier 2, like. There was the Reddit thread, like, how is some random school in South Carolina so good?
Yeah.
When they're, like, giving out full ride scholarships, competing in, like, the VCT tier 2, like, really competitive. I mean, Artemis, right, like, ran Clutch Gaming, or like, was with Clutch Gaming and EG, right? So he's got game. Or just the fact that it's, like, people are like, yeah, what an advantage it is being in the same room as 5 in college. Like, man, if only we had a tier 2 system where every single team, I know, was like they had B teams in person as 5. You know, that could help, right?
That'd be crazy. What a concept. Dude.
Yeah,
like,
that would be crazy.
Like Biofrost is busy this week because he has exams, right?
Yeah,
and he's like again, a college student, like as if this shit's not happening to the other college teams that are competing in this. To your point,
know, like, talking with Blue Otter and Conviction, like they have 3 or 4 different players in like 3 different time zones. And they're working part-time jobs, and they've been really public about that, right? So a lot of what they're struggling with, like, it's not like the NACL players are getting academy minimums anymore. Like, they're unironically, this team is actually going through a lot of the same like issues that other teams have. I think that it's nice that we have teams like Dark Zero that's partnered with Maryville, like Supernova that partner with Ole Miss, and Winthrop, who they are college students. They've been able to, do this. Go to school and like able to pursue this where they're getting their education comped, whether that's full or part. Like that's awesome. But in terms of the effort that this team is putting in versus others, like I don't think it's like it's less, or like some of the struggles that they have are unique. I mean, this is a competitive league, and yeah, like they haven't played as well in the last few weeks. So, and some of that, I mean, you're seeing the issues that are behind the scenes, but like I'm telling you, like this exists for other teams in the league too, right? So. I don't know. I think that they were very clear about their expectations early on. I'm not surprised that this is what's going on. And again, like, there's drama here because they're popular, and it's streamed. But I don't think anything is super duper unique for this team. So I don't know. I wish them the best. I think it's fun to have them in the league. They've been a good team, and I hope they can bring it together in the lower bracket. Backs up against the wall. So a lot of these guys have like really proven themselves in the past, obviously at much higher levels. So we'll see what they're able to do next.
Yeah. Does this, Yami, do you have a rebuttal? Because it feels like the broad take on this panel here is like meh and shrugged in response to your concerns.
Well, this is kind of less a rebuttal and sort of an agreement, which is I didn't want to say like me saying Winthrop is like the 6th place team is a little bit disingenuous because they are like consistently the 2nd or 3rd best collegiate team, and like Maryville is the team who they're kind of like losing to in collegiate a lot of the time, like in 2nd place. And
the 3 college teams that were involved in NACL were top 3 in CEDAL, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, they're a pretty good team that is underperforming where they should have been where they were expected to be this split. And
yeah, I think they overperformed. So I do want to give him some kudos for that, especially like this playoff win. I actually had him as a bottom 3 team. It was very clear earlier on that they were not, but I think they actually overperformed my expectations. I will add that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Well, I kind of wanted to shout out Kangas' comment about young talent showing up, which is like, I do actually think it is good if this team does not just show up with like, with not like, if they're not like showing up and not tryharding. What am I trying to say? Like, if they were showing up and not tryharding and then just beating like every single collegiate team, I would be worried about, or not every single tier 2 team. I would be worried about the health of North American League of Legends for the future. So I am also kind of rooting for their downfall in a way, just because it would reassure me for like the future of the league. If it's like, okay, the old legends had their time, and like now we see like here are the new people who can come and take the throne and like be in the LCS next year, splitter next year or whatever, kind of showing what the new generation has to offer. So shout out to NICL. People should be watching it. It's fun. On that same vein, shout out to Cubby and Kangas and actually all the NICL broadcasters for pulling off the super week last week. That looked exhausting just watching it.
We had 4 days, and the last day was 3 best of 3s. It was fun, but thank you. Shout out to our team behind the scenes. Honestly, they did way more work than us. So, yeah.
I was watching the last day, and it was like game 2 was like, okay, we're done for the night. That was a crazy amount of work, and then there was another game coming up, and I was like, oh shoot, that's wild.
Well, thank you so much, Yami, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a good week. Happy birthday. Happy 23rd.
Yes, thank you. 24.
Wait, you're
right
23, Travis?
What a generous caller.
You're getting up there now.
I know. I remember it was like really.
Feeling?
It was so nice when I turned 21, and then I just started to realize in the last 2 years that like it's actually crazy how different it is whenever you start to get to your mid-20s.
Yeah.
Well, only a few years away from being able to run a car, Travis. So you got something else to look forward to.
I think hopefully.
You still on your parents' insurance. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because I'm self-employed, so if I don't know what it's going to be like when I have to pay for my own insurance. All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about PrizePicks. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring Hotline League. Really appreciate their support of the show. If you all haven't done this yet, please go check out the PrizePicks channel over on Discord. It's really cool. We've got a bunch of neat stuff going on there. Adam is there to help support and help and talk to people about how this all works. It's neat because he's just a member of the community that's passionate about this stuff. I'm going to play a little video here, though, so that you can all see how it works, but we'll be right back.
This video is brought to you by PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching your favorite esports or sports. So I'm going to show you right now how this works on the app. It's super easy to use. So maybe I like Jojo Pyun at more than 9.5 deaths over the first 3 games of his series. And maybe I believe Mickey X is going to get less than 31 assists. I'll go ahead and hit finalize lineup, where it'll show me that if both these things end up coming true and I play an entry fee of, let's say, $20, I'm going to end up winning $60. PrizePicks is available in over 40 states, including California and Texas. And if you sign up, use that link below. It's a big thing that you can do to help me. You can use code Travis whenever you make your first lineup of $5 or more. Win or lose, they're going to give you $50. Now, please only choose to play PrizePicks if you can do so responsibly, but doing so and signing up does help my channel very much. And you can actually join the discussion with other TGI viewers in my Discord. We have a PrizePicks channel. If you're trying to get into it, that's a great place to start. So thanks so much to PrizePicks for sponsoring this piece of content.
All right, thank you again to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. It's been fantastic to work with them. Whenever you do sign up, please use that link in the description. If you're watching over on YouTube, it's also in the chat right now, and you can use you can use code Travis to do that. !PrizePicks in the chat if you ever need the link. But yeah, thank you so much to PrizePicks for sponsoring it, and please only do so if you can do so responsibly. But it is a fun way to add a little bit of extra elements and interest to the whole experience of watching League esports. All right, let's get into the next call. It looks like we got a couple more callers left. Oh, looks like we already have Bear is here. Bear, where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is bearus Aurelius. I'm calling from New Hampshire.
bearus Aurelius, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, guys. I just wanted to bring up a quick point to get your thoughts on it. But essentially, after watching this weekend, I thought that Team Liquid and 100 Thieves stepped up big time, and they really dominated in their series. And I just kind of thought that this is a situation where they really needed to dominate, and they showed it. I just kind of wanted to get your take on that, and I can add some more to that too if you wanted a little more context. But I just thought they did a really good job, and it was great to see from them, and they needed it.
Yeah, go for it. I'm happy to hear more context.
Yeah, essentially, it was just you've had many situations in the past, the past couple of splits where Team Liquid has looked great, 100 Thieves has looked great, and then they've just had these downturns and these downswings, especially with players like Upti and Sniper kind of having some downer moments. But I thought that both teams just really played as a team today, or this weekend rather, and really just showed what they're capable of, and they really looked like top 4 teams, like maybe even third place teams, depending on how you want to put C9 after their performance. But they just they played their games the way they wanted to play. Team Liquid had Core doing what he wanted to do, which is just harassing the junglers. They just totally destroyed that first game with Core JJ in the jungle. 100 Thieves specifically, they were just playing their game where they were being super hyper aggressive, but they were also being a little more respectful than they usually are, even with a team like Disguised. And they did have a couple mistakes, but they ultimately, I think they were up like 5 or 6 kills really early on in the game. They were dominating, and they both looked leagues better than the teams, they want to say the bottom 4 teams that are below them that they've been compared to recently. And then especially Team Liquid with the new jungler and everything going on. I almost feel bad for Umpty that they played so well for the new jungler. Pardon me, I'm forgetting his name, but if they could play like that, UG, yeah, he was great. If they could play like that for Umpty, I thought that they might even look that good with Umpty, but it was really great to see, and they just came around him, and it was just a perfect team performance from them. And they looked almost like they were on form, back last season.
Yeah, well, I'll hop on here first. I definitely think that the Team Liquid one is more exciting to celebrate because of the context of it, of new, fresh rookie coming into the league and having a very solid first series. UG, yes, he got a lot of help from Core, especially in that first game. Dude. But still, I think overall UG performed very well, and we had really hyped this guy up. I mean, Cubby and I have been talking about this guy, singing his praises for a year now. He won back-to-back Most Valuable Prospect in Tier 2, which is like the big award we give to be like, hey, teams, look at this guy. Like, you should think about signing him. So I think that one's a great thing to celebrate. The 100 Thieves one's a little harder just because it was a huge stomp, and it was DSG that they were stomping.
DSG
and
played bad.
Yeah, they played bad, and it really felt like 100 Thieves should not have even been down there in that elimination match to begin with. Like, if that had been Shopify Rebellion, I think it would have been a much closer series. I still think Shopify Rebellion, hands down, take it, but the fact that it was 100 Thieves was just like based on how the very short group stage played out. So I think overall, yes, it was a cool weekend to celebrate some of these teams kind of getting back into form. This is what you expect from 100 Thieves against a team like DSG, so I'm happy that they're looking better. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt. I was the one on broadcast who was really backing them and saying, like, I think that they were legit. So far, they had not proved me right this split. But I think that the TL one, like I said, it's just a little easier to celebrate because of the context of it. Like, it felt a little like a better stomp, like a feel-good stomp.
I mean, I can't give 100 Thieves too much credit just because I think like DSG actually just played really bad in that series. I mean, I think like the first 2 Dragon fights, I saw DSG pick like 3 different targets, and I was like, all right, like, you can't do that if you're not going to play a marksman, right? So
yeah.
that...
And then they kept just like fighting for every objective instead of trying to just play sidelines, get back in the game. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so that was a bummer for me. On the flip side, I do think the TL, I think there's a lot that you can say, or like we can guess as fans about how much did UG factor in, how much did Spawn factor in. If I'm Umpty after that series, I might want to take Core out for a drink and be like, dude, why didn't you do that for me? Because I mean, Core like just straight carried like those games. Like, it was just 1v9 as hell. So I want to see more tape on UG, at least at this level and with this team. But if you're TL, I mean, you can't be any happier than the 2-0 team gap that you had, where they felt like, I mean, everyone played really well. So I think that was a real positive for TL.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for me, as much obviously there's much to be said about like the C9 stuff, but I do echo that it is like it's cool to see this as we're getting into the more higher stakes moments of the split, because I think it was going to be kind of disappointing if we had a lot of messy teams entering, and maybe you could argue like, well, we thought C9 was going to be one of the really performative teams, and now we've just swapped one for another. But I don't know. I'm excited for it. I feel like it's always a cool thing when you head into playoffs and you've got 100T and TL looking decent at the very least, and maybe even better than that. So I'm happy about this too. I agree with the take. I think it's a good one.
And also to double down on your point right there, Travis, is like with FlyQuest beating C9, now the question of like the C9 TL gets even more exciting between those two to see who's actually going to win that one. It would have been, C9 hands down, but now it's, we're actually not sure. I'm way less confident making an actual prediction on that one, which I think, again, is good for the league. It's good when we have close games.
This is kind of our only TL take, just knowing the other call. So just want to pose this question for the caller and you guys. Does TL actually utilize a 6-man going into best of 5s?
Oh, you mean like... Okay, game 1 is UG,
yeah.
game 2 is Umpty.
Maybe, like, who knows? But like, do we see them use both junglers?
That's actually such a good. That's a good question, Cuppy. I really like that you brought that up.
It is a really good question. To throw in real quick, if you guys watched Pros, I believe APA discussed this briefly, and I mean it's kind of simple, but he did essentially say that their champion pools are very different. So depending on what their game plan is going in, they could actually. I think they actually will do it because they just have very different champions and play styles. So
in Fearless, especially.
Yeah.
In Fearless, especially, I think here's the thing. I think if they do it, they'll do it early, and then if they lose, like let's say Umpty comes in, they lose that match in a really bad way. They bring UG back in and they win really strongly. I feel like it's tough because it's it's the best of one. It's like that. It could not even be Umpty's fault. But I feel like the way that I've seen this type of stuff work before is like the team gains confidence around a specific lineup, and then that ends up being what they stick with. So I do think that we will at least see it once or twice. But I think that the results of that will be what heavily decides like what is the case going forward in terms of if they keep doing it throughout playoffs.
I haven't talked to TL, or like I don't know, so this is just my complete shot in the dark guess. I think that it's going to be UG playing the majority of games, and then Umpty's security blanket or strats around him. I think they're going to build strats around both. I also just want to give a couple shout outs to TL. First off, I don't know if people recognize, but Mash was actually sitting in the team room. And Mash has been a long-time positional coach for TL. Of course, he had the DSG gig, doesn't anymore. So if he's helping out with TL again, I mean, that's been a part of TL's success in the past. That definitely has to be recognized. And then shout out to Umpty. I know there was a cool clip of him like supporting UG, but I do think that Umpty, he has been the brunt of a lot of criticism this split. I think that he actually somewhat showed up. He played with that hurt wrist and actually like balled the hell out, right? So I think that he's actually shown a lot of grit this split. And I do want to see a world where we see Umpty at least get a shot a couple more times, right? Yeah. I feel like he, in a way, has somewhat earned that with some of their play. Even if I do feel like I would take UG overall. But in terms of like Nefiri, I think that if they want to run Nefiri strats, like Umpty could definitely draw a ban for that. He's proven he's really good on that champion. And we didn't see that as much from UG the split. So I'm kind of curious to see where TL goes from there. But obviously a fun one for them this past week.
I think it is worth pointing out too that it was one of the breaks they had on the show. They had oh god, forgive me, the FlyQuest jungler. Why am I forgetting his name?
Inspired.
That's right. I'm sorry. He pointed out that I believe he put Umpty in his top 3 junglers. So that is interesting as well, coming from Inspired.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Is there anything you would like to shout out here at the end?
Yes, actually. So, man, this is just going to show my age a little bit. But when the original The Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, which was, I believe, 20 years ago, if anyone wants to correct me, I think it was 20 years ago.
I think it was 05, 06, somewhere in that range, yeah.
Something like that, yes. I think it must have been 06. I actually bought an NZXT case from them, and it was the best case I've ever had to build a PC. It was fantastic, and I've been fans of them ever since. So when you got them as a sponsor, I thought that was really cool, and I hope they stick with you for a long time because they're great.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. That's a great shout out. I really appreciate it. It's super fun. It's funny. I got a code for Oblivion the other day, so I will probably, or no, I actually think it's just on Gamecast. That's what I'm probably going to do. So I will be trying it on my own NZXT PC, maybe whenever I'm done with Expedition 33. So thank you though so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. You have a great night.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, we have one final call to go, and then the birthday hotline league will be over, and we'll have to go back to living normal life.
Fast episode. Wow.
Thank you to. Did you say fast episode? This is.
It feels like it was fast. Feels like it was fast.
Yeah, I think we're going to end about the 2 hour mark, which is where we usually are. But there's so much to talk about that it ended up being moving quickly, I think. Just in case I didn't shout him out, thank you, Lindsay, for the 100 bits. Haru928, NFT Prodigy, and then there's an anonymous gifter who gifted 5 subs, which is very much appreciated. We have our final caller of the evening, none other than Griffin. Griffin, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from K-Town, LA.
K-Town. What do you want to talk about?
Is this the Griffin?
Yep.
Yo, I didn't know.
Not
I
that
saw.
One.
Oh, wait,
not
no,
that one.
Okay.
Yeah. he has already left. He's on a plane.
Way to make the caller feel bad off the bat, Kangas.
Sorry, I saw Griffin was in the studio after the fact, and I was like, man, I didn't notice. I didn't realize he was there with like Busio and Basil and Mahir. But yeah. Sorry, continue, Griffin. What'd you call it to talk about?
Yeah, so my call was, it was honestly shocking to see how FlyQuest dismantled Cloud9, and I actually have Team Liquid meeting FlyQuest in the finals.
Team Liquid meeting FlyQuest, TL Fly. Is that El Clasico yet? Or I guess it's not El Clasico, but it feels like it.
I think we're a couple years. I think we're a couple years away before it becomes like El Clasico.
Well, what
I
would
think
you
for the modern for like current day esports and current day LTA, it does feel like it. I think more so than C9 Fly or C9 TL, just because it's been the last 2, or at least like last year it was 2 finals in a row, and they had like the whole series narrative.
It's El Moderno, I believe. It's,
yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Good ring to it.
Yeah. What? Okay, so you think they're going to be there? How come?
So I think with FlyQuest, it's a pretty more straightforward. I think everyone was kind of more 50-50 on Cloud9 FlyQuest, but I just mean even game 1, like the confidence for Busio to pull out a first-time support pick in the world for a God, I'm already forgetting.
Rumble. It's been a few
Rumble,
but yeah.
We have seen it in the past. So it wasn't first time ever in the world, but it was.
You can play like Center Rumble and play an Alistar, but yeah.
That combined with the way that basically Inspired was just jungle gapping Blabber, like it was like such. And I thought it was even funnier too, because Blabber in an interview earlier, actually Travis's interview, said he was the best jungler in the LTA. And Inspired apparently took that personally. And then also I think just with Team Liquid like getting stronger, I think especially this past weekend, like one of the things I don't think a lot of people saw on the broadcast, but I tend to go to the LTA studio a lot, is that Team Liquid as an entire team, they seemed way much more happier and just much more, they looked like they had a lot more fun playing while on the stage versus the past couple weekends where it seemed like they were much more reserved, a little bit more hesitant, like are we actually going to win the game, like almost to the point like APA levels of like he's doing the choking signs, having fun, like. And I think it's also a part of like UG coming in, but then also Spawn coming in and just having like knowing what he does for the team, like as like being in person, you have those more interactive events. And so I just think with a Cloud9 that's getting exposed for their drafts being very like straightforward and TL kind of starting to rise up, and then also FlyQuest just looking like they're in playoff form again. It just looks like hey, we're getting ready for another FlyQuest TL banger.
I guess this is kind of a fun time to be able to talk about predictions for finals. To the caller's question, Cubby Kangas, would you predict a Fly TL finals?
I got to look at the bracket real quick.
So bracket is Fly versus Shopify and C9 versus TL in the upper bracket. So if TL beats C9, it'd be TL Fly in the upper bracket finals, not the grand finals, but they would play each other very quickly.
I think that C9 is just such a better team than SR, right? So
yeah.
Obviously TL had 2 really good, solid games, right? But I don't, as you know, everyone likes to call me the resident C9 hater here of Hotline League. I can't. I have to give. Do I give C9 another hall pass? I think maybe. I will say that at least some of my concerns about C9 with the flexibility, it kind of did come true, right? In that FlyQuest series, I think that the Rumble flex was really good, and then obviously, Inspired and FlyQuest just had a great day overall. But I'm kind of curious if, again, C9 can pull it together, because I will say the other concern I had for C9 is that we have seen splits where they did get off to really strong starts and then just haven't been able to sustain it. I feel like this has been a common trend for C9 since Reaper came back. And looking at like the JoJo split, even Spring as well, it feels like this is the 4th split in a row where C9 has been stronger at the start of the split than maybe at the end or the back half.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess my only concerns would come from trends. But I said last week that I feel like this was the C9 that was most likely to break that trend. I do still believe that. And I would give them still probably a 60-40 over TL in terms of who wins that. So I think that it's pretty likely that it's going to be like C9 versus FlyQuest in the upper bracket, and then we'll see if TL can scale.
I think the only argument I have against C9 right now is it's been 2 weeks of shaky play. Like, they also look shaky against Lion, and I know that there was a whole thing with Vulcan traveling in and like not necessarily, everyone being.
I give them a sincere hall pass for that week.
Yeah,
they had a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Yeah,
but now that it's been 2 in a row, that's the concern. Is like, ooh.
I mean, kind of, but also didn't they get smacked in such a way where you can kind of write it off? That's where I'm at a little bit.
It did feel like after game 1 draft, they were a little rattled already. Like, the Rumble really did throw them for a loop, and I think got a little under their skin. That's what FlyQuest can do, is they have such unique champion pools between Bwipo and even Busio that we kind of forgot about, can play a lot of these more fun carry-style support champions.
I'm really interested to see what happens in a 5-game series, because I actually do think that there are a couple junglers that we haven't seen a lot of right now that might sneak back in. So, like, I think Jarvan's actually... We're going to see a lot of Jarvan in games like 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, is a really good inspired Umpty and River pick in the past, but also it's been a good pick for Blabber, right? I still think that the jungle change overall with Blabber has more opportunities to interact with lanes, and his solo lanes are still very strong. I think that that's good for C9 still. And I can't really deny the split that Thanatos has had, because it feels like the only top laner that's been able to even stand up to Thanatos has really been Bwipo. So, I mean, obviously Impact is like one of, if not DNA GOAT. So I think that if Impact can at least return to some of the form we're used to seeing from him, it's going to be fine. But Thanatos has been much better than Impact all split, right? And a split where I frankly feel like the top meta, like, I mean, outside of Sion, shouldn't be terrible. Or like, I should say, like, Sion, Rumble, Renekton being in for Impact's good. I think some of the other picks is like not as good for him. Like, I associate other champs with him. They've completely stopped playing Gnar ever since like lane swaps, which I used to think Impact was a fantastic Gnar player, but hasn't been the case. So I'm kind of curious to see how they switch things up. But I'm talking a little bit in circles.
Do you think that the best of 5 will change anything as we're in Fearless? Like, does that impact your reads on either of these teams, or do they both just have a large enough champion pool that it's fine?
I favors FlyQuest the most.
Yeah. But outside of FlyQuest, I actually think it favors TL the next most, because they're double junglers. If they're really willing to lean into that and have 2 junglers with 2 different pools, I actually think that could be a big boon for them. APA also has a lot of his fun picks that always need to be respected in best ofs.
But like, what happens when a couple of those picks go away? Because for me, I feel like that's when I look at TL, I feel like maybe if I'm going to punish anywhere, it's probably the solos in that pool, where I actually might favor C9's pool better with where the meta's at right now. Honestly, Steve, if you want to talk about what Fearless favors the most, and when it goes to 5, talk about 100 Thieves, man. I actually think that it's FlyQuest 100 Thieves that it benefits the most. I really do, because they're willing to be crazy.
Okay, so Cubby's saying FlyQuest 100 Thieves finals. You heard it here.
Yeah, well, that's 100% what I'm saying. But no, I think that
that's good for me. My stocks
are going 100 Thieves, like, they're willing to play drafts that are different but have strong identities. And when you get later on in these Fearless games, sometimes like that is really important. Like, putting UG in and playing an Ivern game, we saw them do that in game 2. That is a legitimate Fearless strategy. Like, we've seen just Jinx comps in like game 3, 4, 5, because some of the better ADs are out of the pool where you can't really punish Jinx. And it's like, okay, we're just going to get Jinx a reset and try and win the game from there, right? Sometimes just having the better identity later on is good. And for me, historically, 100 Thieves has been very willing to play like that. But thinking like their use of Seraphine, or even playing just like River Jarvan, right? I think we're going to see a lot of when we get into later games. So, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how things go. I'm kind of down. I know that over on YouTube, people are saying like, this is like a regular season series, like blah, blah, blah. But I'm kind of down to believe that like TL can step up. And I feel like in recent years, I don't know if this is the correct way of analyzing this, but in recent years, C9 has had a tough time in playoffs, and Team Liquid has done pretty well. You have Impact, all this stuff. So like, if we're going off of trends in a year where rosters have been pretty stable for a while, or much more stable than in the past, then like we should kind of give TL a little bit more confidence and C9 a little less. So
yeah,
we'll see how things go.
To double down on that, C9, they've been better in the regular season for the last couple of splits. They were actually, we were tracking this on broadcast. It's a point that I thought was interesting. Is if they had 2-0, they would have finished 3rd best ever franchise history for like, or at least for their org regular season finish. It was like 2020 spring that they had 94% win rate, and then I think it was 2023 spring or summer that they had slightly above that as well. It was like 86% win rate. But if they had 2-0 that series versus Fly, that would have been the 3rd best ever regular season finish for the org. So the fact that they weren't able to do that, I think, is kind of a bummer way for them to end it, when they kind of were the boogeyman of that group, and really like made themselves a boogeyman of their group. So then for the cross group play, expectations were even higher for them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Griffin, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
I think I might actually have 2. So one, I'm always going to be an advocate of, try to come out to LA, make it to the games. It's pretty cheap to go to, and there's free parking, which in LA is like unheard of. And I also this is definitely like a biased take. I can already see the chats going for it, but I honestly think Riot has been doing such a good job at making the fan experience better, whether you're watching online or in person. And that kind of comes from a point of if you're actually there and you're actually like a fan of the teams. I never met anybody who felt dissatisfied leaving, or if they're currently watching with the new updates to Twitch, with like all the stuff like with the in-game emotes, and like just the way having pros come in the chat is like something that didn't really happen very often like pre-COVID league, since we kind of like divided up like that. And it's just super fun. Like, I had some guy who was a DSG fan this past weekend on Sunday. Like, his dad, they live in like San Francisco. He came down, his dad dropped them off, and like the DSG like team like saw that, like, hey, there's this DSG fan. They gave him a bunch of like merch and stuff, and it was like he was just so happy. He was like, oh my god, like I've never been here before. It's my first time. He's like I don't even play League. I just like watching, and just stuff like that is like just always wanting to praise like if no one doesn't know yet, finals is in the LTA studio again, but that's because there's the whole like thing with the LTA, like both North and South doing their conferences. But I'll always advocate like it's always a good time, and most people don't know this. There's actually a shuttle from LAX to the Riot Games Arena. You just have to go online and like book it, and it's pretty cheap too.
Oh, not bad. I didn't know that.
Okay, wait. How does that work? Like, it's because Riot doesn't run that.
So basically, it's a partnership with like the actual like airport. I guarantee everyone always walks past it. It's right below the Thresh statue, which you guys will know where it is. but there's a little tiny little banner and it has a QR code. You scan the QR code, it actually like shows you what you can like, hey, here's what you can do, so you can actually set up it to be a full trip. I think it also has deals on hotels too, but all I know is that like to get from LAX to the Riot Arena is like less than $15, which again, LA prices, that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Wait, I'm just gonna start doing that when I travel. I'm just gonna be like, okay, when I get back from the airport, 15 minutes to the LTA studio. I wonder if it has to be an LTA day, or can I just go take it? Because that would get me back to my home for like way cheaper.
Yeah, there are shuttles that will just take you to different places in the city. I know that. So I'm sure it's on one of those routes where it's just like, oh, get on this bus. It's going to go on this route and then hop off at this exit to get to the LTA.
Yeah, there's also all the light rails too around too. So I imagine it probably works out with like that certain way. And then my last shout out, this is very like non-league related, but I do this thing called Drum Corps, and I'm about to do move-ins, and they do a bunch of fun stuff. So I just want to shout out my group that I work with, Santa Clara Vanguard. They're super fun, and yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Griffin, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, catch you guys next time.
Yeah.
Also, final plug for people coming to the studio. Another reason you should check it out is that we are just giving away buckets like crazy at this point. The bucket used to be like something that we only gave out during finals at the stadium shows. Yeah, we're just throwing those out at the crowd now. So come check it out.
When I went, so it was like in between. They do like in between games. They throw stuff into the audience, right?
Yeah.
And I see Steve like at the caster like booth just started like the bucket chants, which is so because I used to do that in the crowd, right? I always used to joke. It's like the biggest L of having Steve on the broadcast that you lose Steve in the audience because he gets the people going. It's like from like up there, just like yelling out bucket. They gave away the bucket. You put it on your head and then it went away. Which
yeah. But this Saturday, dude, there was like a whole crowd of. I don't know how old they were. I'm getting old now. They looked like they were 17, 18-year-old dudes just hanging out. They had a sign saying bucket, and they were making so much noise when that bucket came out. They were screaming. And yeah, that was a great time.
The awesome. Studio experience is always great, yeah. So
this is a concept I don't understand. I mean, I know I've seen those guys with the buckets. I know it's the bucket that you throw stuff in the audience in, and they can get the bucket afterwards. But
you don't know the lore?
Kangas is responsible for the
lore. You threw this out, and it was like a big old thing, right?
So the lore behind the bucket is shout out to one of my friends, Duffy, who's a longtime CLG fan like myself. We were at LCS one time, and he just randomly shouted out because they'd always bring the bucket, they'd throw the stuff out, and he just shouted like, "Give me the bucket! Give me the bucket! I want the bucket!" And so then I started saying bucket, and then we got a whole crowd, like a whole row of us, just going bucket, bucket. So I don't take full credit for it. It was my friend Duffy that was the one that started it. But then every time I would go afterwards, I would start a bucket chant, and eventually we got somebody. They gave us the bucket, and it was like a big deal that we got the bucket. Somebody in the crowd was given the bucket. So then at the live shows for like the road shows at the stadium, I'd make a big deal out of it, where like we do like a dance cam between games, and like whoever like had the best dance moves earned the bucket, and the whole crowd went crazy for it. Now it's just become kind of like part of the community, is everybody wants the bucket whenever they go to a live event.
I mean, I guess from a practical perspective, a bucket is more appreciative than like I don't know, squishy Ziggs bomb or something like that. So
look,
we're
cool. In LA.
The bucket's way funnier.
We're in LA, but if I was in Midwest, I mean, that bucket can be used for some serious yard work. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, you can use a bucket for so many things. I don't have a bucket, actually. Do you guys have buckets?
I don't own a bucket. I've never gotten a bucket from it, and Azale was flaming me for it. Or not flaming. He was
but you don't. Do you own a bucket at all?
No.
I don't own a bucket.
I'm a bucketless man, Travis.
It's kind of crazy. It's one of those things you would just assume you own, like by the age of 29, that you would own a bucket.
I do feel embarrassed. Thanks for rubbing it in. Yeah.
All right, that's the show, everybody. Let's do a round of shout-outs. Cubby, what do you want to shout out and plug?
Happy birthday, Travis. It's fun for me to do this show. The first time we met, I was a random. I co-founded my varsity sports program, and I said hey to you at a CLOL finals. So it's always fun to at least put that in perspective to do this now. And also shout out to the groups and communities that you're able to build in the area. I was bummed to miss out on your birthday event that you rightfully gave me shit for, but I don't always show up to the groups you put together, but it's always a good time when I do. There's a lot of good people that hang out in that group, and lot of respect to you for being able to do that, and definitely value that more after going home. Shout out to my good friend Ross and his now wife Amelia, who got married. It was a 60-person wedding, which is by far the smallest wedding I've ever been to. And if you've ever been to a wedding that small, it was actually really nice. It was a real privilege. So that was a lot of fun being home this past weekend. So yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for the kind words. Kangas, how about you?
Also, shout out Travis. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And also shout out to you. I don't know who did it last week's episode. I was not able to catch last week's episode, but I got a bunch more DMs about the CLG stuff. Shout out to everybody who has messaged about the CLG stuff. I'm still taking inventory actively, and we'll be getting back to everybody in DMs probably by the end of the month. It's going to be a long process, so please be patient. It's not going to be like a quick thing, but we will start getting things sent out here, hopefully before June rolls around. I see some people, even like somebody in chat was saying, like, can I come to the studio? Yes, once I start getting back to people in DMs, it's way easier if you're local and you can come to the studio, because that way I can just bring stuff in a backpack and divvy it out there. But for people that are not local, we hope to get stuff sent out to everybody.
It would be, honestly, oh my God, wait, Kangas, could you talk to Mark and see if for finals you can set up the CLG booth? Because you told me you have the CLG banner thing for the booth.
Yeah, the old banner and like the tent.
Wait, CLG should just booth at finals, and it should be you giving out CLG
that would be
merch.
Funny.
This is Kangas' dream. He's trying to ignore any and all IP law to bring it back.
Yeah.
So
that would be incredible.
Yeah.
That would be so great. Have you talked? Well, maybe you don't want to talk about it on the show, but maybe you can just blink twice. I can't see you if you blink. Sigh dramatically. But is it in a casual manner if you have asked NRG what it would take to claim ownership of the brand?
All I will tell you is that conversations are happening. Okay. I cannot give any expectations for what will come after, but yes, conversations are happening.
Yeah. Let me, I'll pitch in $10. Can we all co-own the CLG brand? Is this like
this is what I will say. This is what I will say. And this isn't to say this is the plan right now or that like anybody should get excited about it. But my dream, I do not want to own this org. I do not want to be like managing this org. My goal is to just get it to people that will care and actually will manage it and like take care of it. But what I would love to help with is the fundraising, to do some kind of like, because the tagline was "We Are CLG" for a while. So what if we really leaned into that and we went like the Packers NFL route, where it's a community-owned team where everybody buys in, and then like that's the ownership group, is like everyone owns a percentage of it. I don't know what that looks like. I am way too small brain to handle that. So again, this is not something that like is my goal or my dream. My dream is just to get it to the people that would be able to handle that and bring the team back. I just want to be a fan again.
I don't. Can you be a caster if you have a ownership stake in one of the teams? Is there a conflict of interest there?
Maybe if I just don't tell Riot. You know?
Okay. Well, Greg is in the chat. I guess he doesn't do league ops for. Earlier. He stopped doing it league ops for LTA, so I guess it'll be fine.
See, there we go. Yeah, it's fine.
There's some precedent with Busio, who just wasn't allowed to be on.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
There we go.
Yeah.
I will say, Kangas, I know that we've talked about potential retirement plans for you involving another franchise purchase, and I feel like this would significantly delay said plans.
Yeah, true. It would.
This could be expensive.
Owning the Potbelly sandwich shop is gonna maybe have to go on the pause.
Oh, is that your? I've had that before. It's pretty good. It's not in California, but
so good. Yeah. It's not. It's mostly Midwest. But that's my goal after esports, is I want to own a Potbelly sandwich shop, and that's just my life. I just have a sandwich shop.
Well, I think we've got about 18 months before you have to worry about that, so I think it's fine.
Okay. All right, good.
So good.
That gives me enough time to figure it out.
Yeah. I think a great gift for me, a birthday gift, would be just giving me the CLG brand if you get it. You know, I won't do anything with it, but I would like to be the owner of CLG at the end of all of this. You know,
okay, but I'm keeping the sign. You can't
that's fine. That's fine. Just let me update my LCS my Twitter account to be like owner CLG or Counterlogic Gaming, and just have, you know, as League Esports and all esports goes quietly into the night. Let that be where the brand ends. That would just be so funny.
No, that's not what I want for the brand, Travis. What the hell? It's the opposite.
I mean, I'm talking about this as like, you know, if everything, if Honda leaves, and that creates a cascade where everybody else leaves to bring it back.
True.
You know?
Yeah. NZXT. Maybe they want to sponsor a team. Do you want to talk to your people? Be like,
they do
NZXT
sponsor a team. It's called FlyQuest.
Oh, damn it. You're right.
What about name sponsor? Or are they concerned about recent esports players going off the deep end?
Get me in contact with them. I'm going to undercut FlyQuest. You know, we'll get in there as a sponsor instead.
Stop the count.
All right. I don't know where to go with this. This is Alton. Okay, hey, thanks everyone for hanging out on my birthday. I see viewership dropping. It's plummeting as we talk about all this stuff. I'm going to stay on stream for a little bit, and as they say in the biz, farm those birthday subs. No, I'm going to try to maybe open some magic packs and chill and just talk to people. So if you want to hang out on stream, that's cool. If not, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who did sub. Lindsay gifted 5 subs here at the end. Dasher as well. Goat cheese, please. Thanks everybody. Go play Expedition 33. I highly recommend that. Also, stay tuned for an announcement of something I'm working on. Hopefully on Monday, we're looking to get that out. It'll be interesting for some of you guys. I feel like there was something else I was supposed to talk about. That's it. We're just gonna go with that. Thanks everyone for watching Hotline League. We'll see you next week.